In the autumn of 1813, Johann Gottlieb Fichte introduced his Introduction to the Science of Knowledge as the culmination of a life dedicated to truth. He began by stating that this science requires an entirely new inner sense, revealing a world that ordinary people cannot perceive. To illustrate how difficult his doctrine is to grasp with conventional understanding, he offered a comparison. Imagine a world of people born blind who know only what can be touched. Now, try to describe colors to them. They either won't understand or, if they admit their confusion, you'll realize the futility of the effort. Similarly, those who speak of such profound matters as Fichte's often feel like someone with sight among the blind. Yet, these ideas relate to our true essence and highest purpose, and to stop speaking of them would be to lose hope in humanity. One should never doubt the possibility of opening everyone's eyes to deeper truths as long as they are sincere in their search. Those who have developed this inner sense are able to perceive the true nature of humanity, which is hidden from the outer senses. This is why, throughout history, a hidden wisdom has been spoken of. Those who have discovered this wisdom are as certain of its reality as someone with normal sight is certain of colors. For them, this wisdom needs no proof, and it doesn't require proof for others who have also developed this higher sense. Such people can describe spiritual truths, much like a traveler describing America to those who haven't been there but could imagine it. However, the seeker of higher truth must speak to all humanity, not just those who have developed this inner sense. He knows that understanding these truths is essential for truly being human. Even those who are not yet ready for spiritual investigation can still grasp some of these ideas, so the message is meant for everyone. The ability to feel and understand truth exists in every person. This understanding, which can awaken in any healthy soul, is what the seeker of truth appeals to first. Within this understanding lies a power that gradually leads to higher levels of knowledge. Even if this feeling initially grasps nothing, it acts like a magician, opening the eye of the spirit. In darkness, the soul might not see, but it's moved by the power of truth. Over time, this truth draws closer, awakening the higher sense within. While it might take longer for some and shorter for others, patience and persistence will eventually open every spiritual eye. Unlike physical sight, which can't always be restored, every spiritual eye can be opened. It's just a matter of time. Scientific training isn't necessary to develop this higher sense. It can be nurtured in both the simple-minded and the highly educated. In fact, what's often considered true science today might actually hinder this spiritual development. This science, which only acknowledges what can be sensed physically, often creates prejudices that block access to higher realities. People often argue that there are insurmountable limits to human knowledge, and that any exploration beyond these limits is pointless. Those who speak of things believed to lie beyond human understanding are seen as presumptuous. However, this view overlooks the fact that higher knowledge requires the development of our innate faculties. What may seem beyond our grasp before this development can become fully within reach afterward. Some might ask, why discuss things that people aren't yet equipped to understand? But this is the wrong perspective. While certain abilities are needed to discover these truths, once found, anyone with clear logical thinking and a genuine instinct for truth can understand them. The ideas presented here are meant to provide satisfying explanations for the mysteries of human life and the world's phenomena. Anyone who approaches these ideas with an open mind, free from prejudice, will see that they offer meaningful insights into life. Simply ask, if these ideas are true, do they explain life in a satisfying way? And you'll find that life itself often confirms these truths. To be a true teacher in the higher realms of existence, it's not enough to simply develop a sense for them. Just like in the physical world, a solid foundation in science is essential. Higher perception alone doesn't make someone a spiritual knower, just as having healthy senses doesn't make someone a scholar in the physical world. Since all reality, both physical and spiritual, stems from the same essence, someone who is unlearned in ordinary knowledge will likely struggle with higher knowledge too. This understanding brings a deep sense of responsibility, humility, and caution to anyone called to teach spiritual truths. But it shouldn't discourage anyone from exploring these higher truths, even if their life circumstances don't allow for the study of regular sciences. While it's possible to live a fulfilling life without knowing botany, zoology, or mathematics, one cannot fully understand what it means to be human without seeking some understanding of the deeper truths about humanity's nature and purpose revealed in higher wisdom. What a person considers the highest in existence, they often call the divine. To reach their true potential, they must connect this divine aspect with their life's purpose. Therefore, the wisdom that reveals our true nature and purpose can be called divine wisdom. This show outlines a philosophical view of the universe. The writer presents only what he considers factual, as any experience perceived by the senses and ordinary intelligence. The insights shared here are accessible to anyone committed to following the path of knowledge detailed in a special section of the show. Chapter 1. The Constitution of the Human Being, Gota, beautifully describes how we can begin to understand human nature. When people first notice the world around them, they view it in relation to themselves, which makes sense because their well-being depends on whether things around them are pleasing or harmful. This approach seems easy and necessary, but it also leads to many errors that can cause regret and make life difficult. On the other hand, those who seek deeper knowledge try to observe things in themselves and in relation to each other without focusing on personal reactions like pleasure or usefulness. They must view the world objectively, like divine beings, studying what is rather than what pleases. For example, a true botanist should not focus on the beauty or usefulness of plants, but study their structure and their relationships within the plant kingdom, observing them impartially to understand their nature. Goethe's idea highlights three things. First, the objects we perceive through our senses, what we touch, smell, taste, hear, and see. Second, how these objects affect us, whether they bring pleasure or displeasure, attraction or repulsion, usefulness or harm. Third, we gain deeper knowledge and insights when we view these objects from a dispassionate, almost divine perspective, uncovering the secrets of their nature and activity. These three aspects of life are distinctly separate, revealing how humans connect with the world in three ways. First, we encounter the world as it is, accepting it as a given fact. Second, we personalize the world, making it meaningful to us. Third, we see the understanding of the world as a goal we must constantly pursue. Why do we experience the world in these three ways? A simple example explains this. Imagine walking through a meadow full of flowers. The colors of the flowers are observed by your eyes. This is the fact you accept. You then feel joy at their beauty, turning this fact into something personal. A year later, you walk through the same meadow, now with different flowers. New joy arises, but the joy of the previous year remains only as a memory, tied to you alone. However, the flowers you see now are of the same species, following the same natural laws as before. If you've learned about these species and laws, you'll recognize them again this year. You might think, the flowers from last year are gone, and my joy remains only as a memory. But the laws and essence of the flowers are constant, existing outside of me, independent of my personal feelings. Humans connect with the world in three distinct ways: which reflect the three sides of their nature: body, soul, and spirit. These terms are used here without any preconceived meanings, just as a way to describe how we interact with the world. By body, we mean the part of us that perceives the outside world, like how we see flowers in a meadow. The soul is the part of us that reacts to these perceptions, experiencing emotions like joy or sorrow. The spirit is what comes into play when we step back and view things objectively, as if from a higher perspective, as Goethe described. Through the body, we connect with the world around us. Through the soul, we internalize our experiences. Through the spirit, we understand the deeper essence of the things we observe. Only by considering these three aspects can we fully understand what it means to be human. Humans connect to three distinct worlds through their body, soul, and spirit. The body is linked to the physical world, made from and interacting with the materials and forces around us. We can observe our body just as we observe the outer world with our senses. However, the soul is different. It's our inner world of emotions like joy and pain, which can't be seen or measured by physical senses. This inner world is unique to each individual. Through the spirit, we perceive the outer world in a higher way, stepping beyond ourselves to understand things as they truly are. For example, when we look at the stars, the joy we feel belongs to our soul, but the laws of the universe we grasp through thought belong to the stars themselves, not to us. In this way, humans are citizens of three worlds: the physical world perceived through the body, the personal inner world of the soul, and the universal world of the spirit. To truly understand these aspects of life and our place in them, we must observe each through its unique perspective. We understand the human body through our senses, much like we learn about minerals, plants, and animals. Humans share characteristics with these three forms of existence. Like minerals, we build our bodies from natural materials. Like plants, we grow and reproduce. Like animals, we perceive our surroundings and form inner experiences based on these perceptions. Therefore, humans can be seen as having a mineral, plant, and animal nature. The structures of minerals, plants, and animals vary, and these structures are what we perceive as their bodies. The human body, however, is distinct from the animal body. Even those who deny the existence of a soul must agree with Carus's observation that the intricate structure of the human brain is unmatched in the animal kingdom. This complexity plays a crucial role in our spiritual development. As Carus notes, while a well-developed brain does not guarantee genius, it is essential for higher knowledge. So just as humans have mineral, plant, and animal aspects, we also possess a unique, distinctly human form. This human aspect sets us apart, creating a unique realm in which we exist and function. The soul of a person is their inner world, which is unique to each individual. This inner world becomes apparent when we focus on even the simplest sensations. For example, colorblind people see the world differently than those with normal vision. Some see only shades of gray or cannot distinguish certain colors. This shows that even basic sensations are part of our inner world. We can see a red table with our senses, but we can't directly perceive someone else's experience of the color red. This experience of sensation belongs to the soul. Understanding this helps us see that inner experiences are more than just brain processes. Sensation leads to feelings. Some bring pleasure, others discomfort. These feelings create a personal inner world in addition to the external one. The will is another aspect of the soul, allowing us to act and imprint our inner experiences onto the outer world. Human actions reflect our inner life, unlike natural events, which don't have this personal touch. In summary, the soul represents what is uniquely ours compared to the external world. While the outer world provides stimuli, We respond to these with our own unique inner world. The physical body forms the basis for this soul experience. The human spirit goes beyond the body and the soul. Unlike mere sensations or bodily influences, the spirit involves thinking and understanding. People don't just react randomly. They think about their experiences and actions. Through thought, we gain knowledge and make sense of our lives. Correct thinking guides our actions and helps us fulfill our duties as humans. While the body follows natural laws, the spirit adheres to the laws of thought. This makes us part of a higher order, the spiritual realm. The soul and body are different, just as the spirit is distinct from the soul. The soul starts with basic sensations like taste and pleasure, but the spiritual aspect involves deeper understanding and insight. In essence, naturalists study the body, psychologists focus on the soul, and those who explore the spirit look at spiritual aspects. To truly understand oneself, one must recognize the differences between body, soul, and spirit. This understanding is essential for anyone seeking to deeply comprehend human nature. To truly understand oneself, it's crucial to appreciate the role of thinking. The brain is our thinking tool, much like how a well-constructed eye allows us to see colors. Just as the eye is essential for vision, the brain is vital for thought. The brain's size compared to the rest of the body shows its importance. It's relatively small in amphibians, larger in mammals, and largest in humans. Some people undervalue thinking and favor emotions or feelings. They believe that deep emotions, rather than dry thinking, lead to higher knowledge. However, this is a misconception. While everyday thinking may seem utilitarian, deeper, more profound thinking often leads to greater feelings of warmth, beauty, and inspiration. The highest feelings come from deep, clear thoughts about higher realms, not just spontaneous emotions. The human body is designed for thinking. It uses the same basic materials found in minerals, arranged in a way that allows thought to emerge. This setup, centered around the brain, is called the physical body, or Sthula Sharira in spiritual terms. The human body develops through propagation and growth. These processes are shared with plants and animals and set living things apart from inanimate minerals. Living organisms come from a germ, inheriting traits from their ancestors. Unlike minerals, which form from the materials they are made of, living things have forces that shape their form and pass on through heredity. For example, a quartz crystal forms from its own internal forces, while an oak tree's form is influenced by the forces in the germ from its parent trees. This form-preserving force is called life force, or prana in spiritual literature. This life force shapes the species and ensures that it continues across generations. Much like how minerals form crystals, but living things maintain their species form through their life force. Humans can only perceive what their senses allow. For example, without eyes, you can't see light, and without ears, you can't hear sound. Basic organisms might only have a sense of touch, so they only detect the mineral forces they can feel. As animals develop more senses, their experience of the world becomes richer and more complex. For humans, our senses let us perceive things like colors and sounds, but they don't detect the life force, which is different from these physical sensations. Just as a blind person can't see colors until they regain sight, we don't perceive the life force with our ordinary senses. However, once we develop the right faculties, we can perceive this life force as part of our experience. When we awaken this new sense, we don't just see colors or smell scents anymore. We can sense the life force within plants and animals. This life force isn't just an abstract concept, it's a real aspect of the world. To describe this, we can call it the ether body or life body, which represents the spirit form that animates all living things. To someone studying spiritual life, the ether body isn't just a result of the physical body's materials and forces. Instead, it's an independent entity that brings physical materials to life. Unlike a crystal, which holds its shape due to physical forces, a living body requires its ether body to maintain its form while alive. Once life leaves, the physical body can only be held together by the ether body until it eventually falls apart. To see this ether body, one needs a spiritual eye, much like how we see colors with our physical eyes. Without this spiritual vision, you can accept the ether body's existence logically, but you can't actually see it. The term ether body here refers to something different from the scientific concept of ether. It's just a name for what's being described. The ether body of humans is specially organized to support the thinking spirit. While our physical body connects us to the mineral world, the ether body links us to the life world. After death, the physical body returns to the mineral world, and the ether body goes to the life world. In spiritual literature, the ether body is called the linga sharira. The term body here is used to describe what gives shape or form, which isn't the same as the physical body, but includes the forms assumed by the soul and spirit. When we experience sensations like seeing the color blue, the process starts with external stimuli, such as light rays hitting the retina and being processed by the brain. However, the sensation itself, the feeling of blue, isn't found in the physical brain or the ether body. It arises in the soul of the person experiencing it. If a person only had a physical body and an ether body, they wouldn't experience sensations. Sensations come from an activity within the soul that's different from the life force processes observed in plants. This activity, which is like a fountain of responses to external impacts, is known as the sentient soul, or karma in spiritual literature. The sentient soul is as real as the physical body, but it's not visible to the physical senses or even to the organs that perceive life as life. To see this sentient soul, one needs a higher spiritual vision. With this vision, one can not only sense their own inner world, but also perceive the sensation world of others. A person with this spiritual eye can see the sensations of another person's soul as if they were reading an open book, while most people only experience their own sensations inwardly. The sentient soul relies on the ether body for its sensations. The ether body, which is the life force within the physical body, affects how the sentient soul experiences sensations. Just as functioning eyes are needed to see colors, the physical body influences the sentient soul. The sentient soul is therefore limited by the body's condition, but extends slightly beyond it. This means the sentient soul is more than just the physical body and the ether body. It involves another part called the soul body, or astral shape, in spiritual terms. The soul body is a finer part of the ether body that works closely with the sentient soul, while the coarser part of the ether body links with the physical body. The sentient soul, including sensations, desires, impulses, and emotions, shows how these aspects of the soul are influenced by the physical body, but also extend beyond it. Just as the sentient soul interacts with the body, it also interacts with thinking, or the spirit. Thoughts help us understand our sensations. For example, if a child burns itself, it learns that fire burns through thought. Humans don't just follow their impulses, they use thoughts to manage and fulfill them. This is what drives material civilization, with thoughts leading to inventions like ships, railways, and telephones, mostly to satisfy the sentient soul's needs. Thought force, like life force, influences the sentient soul and connects it with a system of laws beyond the physical body. While animals have sensations and instincts, they don't use thought to manage them. They react immediately. Humans, especially those with developed thinking, use thoughts to navigate their sensations and desires. This aspect of the soul, which integrates thought into its experiences, is called the intellectual soul, or kama manas in spiritual terms. The intellectual soul works with and refines the sentient soul. It's visible as a distinct entity for those who can see the soul, separate from the basic sentient soul. Thinking allows humans to rise above their personal experiences and connect with something greater. It helps us believe that the laws of thought align with the world's laws. This belief helps us feel at home in the world. Through thinking, people discover that truth is not just a personal feeling, but something that has universal significance. For example, my fascination with the stars and the thoughts I have about them are not just personal. They hold meaning for everyone. Truth doesn't change based on individual feelings. If I find joy in learning something new, that joy is personal, but the truth of what I've learned remains constant. The truth we uncover doesn't disappear with our feelings. It has a lasting significance. Even if our understanding of truth evolves or changes over time, the idea of truth itself remains eternal. As Lessing suggested, we may strive for truth, knowing that we may never fully grasp it, but this very striving shows that truth is something beyond ourselves. Truth has an independent existence and significance that is shared by all of humanity. Just as truth stands independent of personal feelings, so does what is truly good. Moral goodness isn't swayed by our likes or dislikes. It commands them. While personal feelings are tied to our individual soul, true duty transcends these feelings. Someone who values duty above personal inclinations might even sacrifice their life for it. The higher a person's character, the more their personal desires align with their sense of duty without force. The truly good, like truth, has its own eternal value and doesn't depend on our emotions. When we let the eternal truth and goodness shine in our inner selves, we connect with something everlasting. This inner light makes part of our soul eternal. This part of the soul, which holds onto eternal truths, is called the consciousness soul. While basic consciousness is found even in animals, the consciousness soul represents the deeper layer of human awareness, freed from mere feelings. The consciousness soul is distinct from the intellectual soul, which is still tied to our impulses and passions. True understanding comes when we see beyond personal feelings and recognize a truth that remains constant despite our preferences. So just as we have three layers in our body, physical, etheric, and sentient, our soul also has three layers: sentient soul, intellectual soul, and consciousness soul. The body's physical nature limits the soul, while spiritual truth expands it. The more we fill our soul with truth and goodness, the more our inner light grows, visible to those who can see it, just like physical light from a flame. To a seer, the physical body is just one part of the whole person. The physical body, the coarsest part, is surrounded by more subtle layers. Inside and around the physical body are the ether body and the soul body, also called the astral shape. Beyond these lies the sentient soul, and further out is the intellectual soul, which expands as it embraces more truth and goodness. The human aura encompasses all these layers, with the physical body appearing as if floating within it. As children grow, they eventually experience a moment of self-awareness where they recognize themselves as separate, independent being. For sensitive individuals, this realization can be deeply significant. The poet Jean-Paul described his own moment of self-awareness as a powerful, unforgettable experience where he suddenly understood, "I am an I." This moment marked the birth of his self-consciousness. Before this realization, children talk about themselves as if they were others, not fully aware of their own individuality. When a person becomes self-aware, they see themselves as an I, uniting all their experiences through this sense of self. Just as the physical body has its center in the brain, the soul centers on the ego, or I. This I remains invisible and is the essence of a person. This is why Jean-Paul called it a holy of holies. It represents the true self, separate from the body and soul. The body and soul can be seen as tools or sheaths through which the ego acts. As people grow, they learn to view their body and soul as servants to their true self. The word I is unique because it refers to oneself in a way no other name can. Unlike names for objects, I can only be used by the individual to refer to themselves. It can't be heard from outside. It's known only from within. This inner reference to oneself as I speaks to something deep and personal, separate from the physical and spiritual layers that surround it. As the I becomes more dominant, it starts to rule over both the body and soul. This control is reflected in the aura, which becomes more complex and colorful. While the I itself remains invisible, it influences the aura in visible ways. The aura shows how the I interacts with both the body and soul, absorbing and reflecting the eternal light within. The I gathers experiences from the body and soul and draws in thoughts of truth and goodness. The senses provide information to the I, while the spirit offers deeper insights. The body and soul serve the I, and in return, the I connects with the spirit, which fills and enriches it. The I lives within the body and soul, but the spirit lives within the I. The I is affected by various forces. It follows the laws of the mineral world through the physical body, the laws of growth and propagation through the ether body, and the laws of the soul world through the sentient and intellectual souls. However, the spirit transcends these laws and is not bound by birth and decay. The I is primarily expressed through the consciousness soul, but it extends throughout the entire soul and affects the body. The spirit exists within the I as a guiding force, much like the I exists within the body and soul. This spiritual aspect, called the spirit self, shapes and individualizes the I by integrating the eternal truth into the person's unique being. The main difference between the consciousness soul and the spirit self is that while the consciousness soul carries universal truths, the spirit self personalizes these truths, integrating them into the individual's I and contributing to their eternal nature. The spirit self is like a window to the spiritual world, showing its influence within the I, just as sensations reveal the physical world. For example, colors like red and green, or qualities like warmth and softness, are sensations of the physical world. In contrast, truth and goodness are revelations from the spiritual world. We can think of this as the difference between sensation and intuition. Sensations are about physical experiences, while intuition is about spiritual insights. Even simple thoughts contain intuition because they come from the spirit through the I, not from physical senses. When a person looks at a plant, the way they understand it can differ greatly depending on their development. A more developed person can form deeper thoughts about the plant than someone less developed, even though both perceive the same object. Progress in spiritual understanding comes from the ability to think intuitively, not just from physical sensations. A child may feel moral impulses, but the deeper understanding of moral truths develops as they grow and connect with spiritual insights. Just as colors need physical eyes to be seen, spiritual intuitions need the higher thinking of the spirit itself. Sensations and intuitions both inform us, but neither creates the realities they reveal. The I of a person which comes alive in the soul, receives messages from the spirit world through intuition, just as it receives information from the physical world through the senses. This way, the spirit world becomes a personal part of the soul, much like how the physical world does through our senses. The soul, or the eye shining within it, has openings to both the physical and spiritual worlds. In the physical world, each human body is a unique being made of physical materials, and it uses these materials to understand the world. Similarly, in the spirit world, there is a spirit body that allows the eye to experience and understand the spiritual realm. Although the term spirit body might sound contradictory, it's used to help us understand how the spirit world has a form of body like the physical world. Just as each human body is separate and individual in the physical world, so is the spirit body in the spiritual world. Just as we take physical materials into our bodies, we also absorb spiritual materials from our environment into our spirit. This spiritual nourishment is eternal, and through the eternal laws of truth and goodness, we are connected to the spirit world. We are born both of the physical world and the spirit world. This independent spiritual being is called the spirit man, similar to the term Atma in spirituality. Within the spirit man, the elements and forces of the spirit world flow just as physical elements and forces do in the physical body. The spirit man has a spiritual skin, or spirit sheath, which separates him from the rest of the spirit world. This sheath makes him a distinct, independent being within the spiritual realm and allows him to intuitively understand spiritual content. As human evolution progresses, this spiritual sheath can expand indefinitely, reflecting the growth of spiritual individuality. The spirit man lives within the spirit sheath, much like how our physical body is supported by the physical life force. This spirit sheath is built up by the spiritual life force, similar to how the ether body supports the physical body. For this reason, we can speak of a life spirit in the context of the spirit man. In total, a person's spiritual being consists of three parts: the spirit man, the life spirit, and the spirit self. In spirituality, these are known as Atma, Buddhi, and Manas. To those who can perceive the spiritual world, the spiritual being of a person is visible as part of their aura. They see the spirit man within the spirit sheath, growing larger as it absorbs spiritual nourishment. Unlike the physical body, which has a fixed size, the spirit can expand endlessly. The aura, therefore, has two parts, one reflecting the physical existence and the other the spiritual. The ego separates these, with the physical body serving the soul and the spirit man providing the spirit's connection to the spiritual world. To understand the whole person, think of them as composed of these elements. The physical body is shaped from physical matter to meet the needs of the ego, and it becomes the ether or life body. This body opens up to the world through the senses, becoming the soul body. The sentient soul, which fills this body, experiences the outer world through sensations and its own inner life through thinking. It evolves into the intellectual soul, which then opens to spiritual intuitions, becoming the consciousness soul. Just as the physical body has sense organs, the spirit world provides the organ of intuition to the consciousness soul. Just as our senses transmit information through our physical body, our spirit sends intuitions to the soul through a special organ of intuition. This connection means that the spirit man and the consciousness soul work together, similar to how the physical body and the sentient soul interact. Here's a simplified breakdown of the parts that make up the whole person. Physical body, the tangible, material part of us. Ether body, the life force that supports and energizes the physical body. Soul body. The aspect of the soul that interacts with the senses. Sentient soul. The part of the soul that feels and experiences sensations. Intellectual soul. The part of the soul that thinks and reasons. Consciousness. Soul. The part of the soul that connects with spiritual intuitions. Spirit self. The higher aspect of the spirit that carries eternal truths. Life spirit. The force that energizes the spirit man. Spirit man. The true spiritual core of a person. In the earthly world, the soul body and sentient soul form a unity, just as the consciousness, soul, and spirit self do. This creates a total of 7 parts in our earthly experience. In spirituality, these are labeled differently. Physical body, Stula Sharira ether body, Linga Sharira soul body, Astral body, Kama Rupa intellectual soul, Lower Manas, Kama Manas consciousness, soul, Higher Manas life spirit, Buddhi spiritual body, spirit man. Atma the I or ego shines through the soul, connecting with the spirit to make us part of both. The soul acts like a stalk, rooting us in the physical world while also reaching up into the spiritual realm. For a clearer understanding, think of the human being as consisting of the physical body, life body, astral body, and the I. The astral body combines the soul body and sentient soul. The I interacts with the spirit self, influencing the astral body and our experiences of impulses, desires, and physical sensations. Impulses, desires, and passions come from the sentient soul. When the I, or ego, is influenced by the spirit self, it energizes these aspects, transforming them. This means that the I, now connected to the spiritual realm, gains control over these impulses. The astral body, which includes our desires and passions, changes because of this spiritual influence. So the spirit self can be seen as a transformed astral body. Similarly, when the I integrates the life spirit, it transforms the life body. The life body, once affected by the life spirit, changes significantly. This means that the life spirit can also be seen as a transformed life body. When the I receives the spirit man, it deeply influences the physical body. However, this change in the physical body is not visible to the senses because it is spiritual. Instead, it's perceived through spiritual faculties. So here's a simplified view of the parts of a person. Physical body, life body, astral body first, soul kernel, spirit self, transformed astral body, life spirit, transformed life body, spirit man, transformed physical body. In essence, as the I absorbs spiritual influences, it transforms the different layers of our being, from our physical body to our spirit. Chapter 2. Reincarnation and karma. The soul sits between the body and the spirit. It experiences the world through the body, but these experiences are temporary. For example, my eye sees the color of a rose only while the rose is in view and my eye is open. The impressions from the world are only present as long as the body is engaged with them. But the truths I recognize through my spirit are timeless. These truths exist whether or not I see the rose. The spirit's understanding of truth is eternal, not bound by the fleeting moment. The soul bridges the present and eternity. It keeps moments of now for future remembrance and gives them a sense of permanence. It captures what is temporary and makes it part of the eternal by acting from its own will. Through remembrance, the soul keeps the past alive, and through action, it shapes the future. For instance, without memory, my soul would need to rediscover the color red each time I see it. But instead, the soul stores these impressions as concepts, making them a part of its inner world. This allows the soul to retain and live with these concepts, even when the external impressions are gone. Actions also create lasting changes. If I cut a branch from a tree, my action alters the course of events in the world. This change continues even after the action is completed. What I do today influences tomorrow, just as my past experiences shape my current soul life through memory. Memory works differently from sensation and perception because it doesn't rely on the physical body. For example, you need your eyes to see the color blue, but you don't need them to remember it. If your eyes were the only things that existed, impressions would fade away as soon as they were made. Memory allows you to connect past experiences with the present. Imagine you meet someone and recognize him from yesterday. You can do this because your soul connects your current perception with your memory of the past. The memory of the man from yesterday is preserved by the same part of you that was present during that earlier encounter. This is the role of the soul, which keeps past experiences alive and integrates them with new ones. The soul preserves these past experiences as a treasure for the spirit. This is why you can differentiate right from wrong. Your spirit grasps eternal truths, which are not limited to just current impressions. The soul extends your awareness to the past, enriching the spirit with both timeless truths and past experiences. Thus, the spirit of a person carries two things: the eternal laws of truth and goodness, and the memories of past experiences. To understand someone fully, you need to know both how much truth they have grasped and how much of their past experiences they carry with them. The impact of experiences doesn't remain unchanged in the spirit. While you might not remember every detail from learning to read and write as a child, those early experiences have shaped your abilities. The spirit transforms these memories, extracting the essential skills and knowledge that help you grow. Each experience contributes to your abilities, even if you don't consciously remember them. Just as the body is more than just its physical presence from birth to death, so is the spirit more than the experiences within a single lifetime. The body is formed through both physical matter and inherited traits from previous generations. Similarly, the spirit inherits a unique form from past lives. People's spiritual forms vary widely. No two people have the same spiritual makeup, and these differences aren't solely due to their environment or upbringing. Even individuals with similar backgrounds can develop in very different ways, suggesting that they start life with different spiritual predispositions. Understanding these spiritual differences can offer deeper insights into human nature. Humans, unlike animals, share a common physical form but differ in significant ways. While physical differences exist among races and individuals, they all belong to the same human species, inheriting their physical traits from their ancestors, just as lions inherit theirs from previous lions. However, the differences in people's spiritual forms are just as striking as their physical similarities. Each person's spiritual essence is unique, and this uniqueness is revealed through their personal biography. Unlike animals, where understanding a species often suffices to understand an individual, grasping the essence of a human requires knowing their personal story. A person's biography isn't just a list of events, it represents their unique spiritual journey. Just as physical traits are inherited, so is our spiritual essence. To understand someone's spiritual nature, you need to consider their individual experiences and background, not just their physical traits or family lineage. In essence, while physical traits are inherited, the spiritual aspect of a person is shaped by their unique experiences and heritage. Just as I inherit my physical form from my ancestors, I also inherit spiritual qualities. However, my spiritual essence is uniquely my own, shaped by my individual experiences and biography. This means that my spiritual self must have existed before my birth, as my life is influenced by pre-existing predispositions. I cannot have inherited my spiritual form from my forefathers because they are different spiritual beings. Instead, my spiritual essence must be a continuation or reincarnation of a unique spiritual entity, much like how each new physical body repeats the characteristics of the human species. This idea might seem abstract because it isn't something we can measure with physical tools. Understanding spiritual reincarnation relies on the power of thinking and intuition rather than physical evidence. For those who have developed spiritual insight, these ideas about reincarnation and spiritual inheritance can be as clear and convincing as physical observations. For others, especially those focused solely on physical science, these concepts might seem less tangible, but they offer a different kind of understanding of human existence. One major misunderstanding is trying to explain a person's unique spiritual qualities as something inherited from their parents or ancestors. For example, if someone believes Goethe's essence came from his parents, they may resist arguments that challenge this view, often due to a materialistic mindset that blocks a deeper understanding. To truly understand a person, we need to look beyond just their physical life, considering their existence in the realms of body, soul, and spirit. The soul connects the body and spirit by influencing both. It allows us to experience sensations through the soul body and supports spiritual growth through the consciousness soul. The soul body's development affects how well the sentient soul can interact with the world, while the richness of the consciousness soul influences the growth of the spirit self. Our experiences and their results nourish the spirit self during life, showing how deeply the soul and spirit interconnect. Let's dive into how the soul body and the sentient soul interact. The soul body is a refined part of the physical body, deeply connected to it. It forms part of a larger whole, which includes the physical body, ether body, and soul body. As a result, the soul body follows the same hereditary laws as the physical body, but in a more fluid and dynamic way. While physical differences between people are minor and often linked to race or ethnicity, and while the ether body shows some variation, the soul body reveals the greatest differences. It expresses each person's unique characteristics, including traits passed down from their ancestors. For example, Goethe noted how he inherited physical traits and personal characteristics from his parents, but his genius came from within himself. The physical body is constantly renewing itself with matter from the environment, but this renewal is guided by the ether body. This process isn't limited to just the time between birth and death. It also involves hereditary laws extending beyond life. Similarly, soul qualities can be passed down through heredity, influenced by the sentient soul's connection to the soul body. So how do the body and soul interact? While we're alive, our spirit is deeply connected with our soul. The spirit brings eternal truths of good and true into our lives. These truths mix with our personal experiences, shaping our tendencies and passions. Although experiences themselves fade, their effects stay with us. The spirit keeps an imprint of these experiences, making future encounters feel familiar. This is how we learn and develop new skills. For example, a person's natural talents or predispositions might come from past experiences. Take Mozart. As a child, he could perfectly recall complex music after hearing it just once. This wasn't just a random gift. It was likely the result of skills developed over previous lifetimes. Similarly, someone like Lessing, who improved his critical abilities through effort, was building on past experiences. In essence, each life is a continuation of the last. We carry forward the skills and insights gained from previous lives. The spirit continually evolves, absorbing new experiences and integrating them with what it has learned before. Just as the physical body passes on traits through heredity, the spirit carries forward its accumulated wisdom, shaping each new life with the fruits of past experiences. Experiences of the soul endure beyond birth and death. The soul's actions leave a mark not just on the spirit, but on the world through deeds. For instance, what we did yesterday affects us today. Think of sleep as a kind of short death. When you wake up, you can't just start fresh. You must pick up where you left off. Your actions yesterday shape your fate today. Just as you wouldn't expect to live in a house that you didn't build, you can't expect your life to ignore the impact of your past actions. When a new life begins, it's not like creating something entirely new. A physical body, shaped by heredity, comes into existence, carrying a spirit that continues from a previous life. The soul acts as an intermediary, processing experiences and passing their essence to the spirit. The body provides sensory impressions to the soul, which then transforms these into lasting concepts for the spirit. In essence, while the body connects us to the physical world and the human species, the spirit connects us to a higher, eternal realm. The soul links the physical and spiritual worlds during our lifetime. When we act in the physical world, those actions leave lasting marks that are connected to our spirit. The soul helps translate the spirit's capacities into actions that create lasting effects. These actions then continue to influence us, reflecting the spirit's presence and intentions. For example, consider animals that lost their sight after living in dark caves for generations. Their environment changed them, and their fate became tied to their actions. Similarly, our actions shape our future. The human spirit, through its actions, carves its own fate. Even though we might reincarnate into a completely different world, the essence of our past actions and their effects follow us. Just as moving from Europe to America presents new surroundings but doesn't erase our past, our spirit's journey continues, influenced by what we've done before. Imagine moving from Europe to America. If you were a mechanic in Europe, you'd likely end up in a setting full of machinery in America. If you were a bank clerk, you'd find yourself surrounded by bank offices instead. Your past work influences your new environment, just as our previous lives influence our new ones. Sleep is a good way to understand this concept. When you sleep, you're temporarily removed from your daily activities, but the effects of your actions from the previous day still shape your day when you wake up. Similarly, when we reincarnate, our past actions create the conditions of our new life. Our spirit is drawn to situations and environments related to its past experiences, just like the animals that lost their sight after living in caves. In every life, the soul connects the body and spirit, navigating between the physical world and spiritual influences. The body is influenced by heredity, while the soul carries forward the results of past actions, known as karma. The spirit, however, is eternal and continues to reincarnate, bringing with it the results of past lives into new ones. To truly understand human nature, one must grasp these three aspects: the physical body, the soul's karma, and the spirit's reincarnation. Open-minded thinking and spiritual insight can reveal the truth of how our past lives shape our present and future. Chapter 3. The Three Worlds. We've seen that humans are part of three worlds: the physical, the soul, and the spiritual. Our bodies are built from the materials and forces of the physical world, which we perceive through our five senses. But these senses only give us information about the physical world. They can't help us understand the soul or spiritual realms. To grasp these other worlds, we need different kinds of perception, sometimes called higher senses. Although calling them senses might seem confusing since we usually think of senses as physical, it's helpful to think of them as organs of perception for these non-physical worlds. Just as we need eyes to see light and ears to hear sound, we need these higher senses to perceive the soul and spiritual realms. The philosopher Lao-Tzu explained that without our physical senses, we wouldn't experience light, sound, or even pain. Different beings experience the world in varied ways. For instance, animals with only a sense of touch can't perceive light and color like humans do. They sense vibrations, but only with the right organs can these vibrations turn into sounds or colors. In short, we understand the world through the effects we receive from our senses. To explore the soul and spiritual worlds, we need to develop new ways of perceiving beyond our physical senses. Goethe captures the relationship between humans and the world of realities beautifully. He suggests that trying to describe the true nature of something is often in vain. Instead, we see the effects of things, and understanding these effects can give us a clear picture of their nature. For instance, to understand a person's character, we look at their actions and deeds, not just try to describe their personality directly. Goethe also highlights that nature reveals itself through many different senses. Just as colors and light are related and reveal nature to our eyes, nature speaks to other senses as well. But nature is never truly silent or dead. It communicates through countless phenomena. Goethe's point is not that we can't know the essence of a thing, but that the essence is revealed through its effects. The essence is not hidden behind its effects. Rather, the effects are how the essence shows itself. This approach is similar to the philosophical view that recognizes the richness of what is revealed. Just as our physical senses, like sight and hearing, develop naturally, humans can also develop soul and spiritual senses. These higher senses are not given to us automatically by nature. Instead, we have to cultivate them ourselves if we want to perceive the soul and spiritual worlds. This development is not unnatural. It is part of the higher process of growth and understanding. In summary, just as our physical senses help us navigate the physical world, developing soul and spiritual senses allows us to explore and understand the deeper aspects of existence. Some people think that developing higher senses is unnatural, but this misunderstanding overlooks the importance of these senses. It's like opposing all forms of education or improvements for those born blind. Just as surgeries can give sight to the blind, developing higher senses reveals new qualities and facts about the world that physical senses alone can't perceive. For someone who awakens these higher senses, the world transforms. Just as a blind person who gains sight sees colors and light for the first time, a person who develops soul and spiritual senses perceives dimensions of reality that were previously hidden. These higher senses don't add anything arbitrary. They reveal essential aspects of reality that were always there but unseen. The soul and spirit worlds aren't separate from the physical world. They overlap with it. When someone awakens their soul and spirit senses, they discover new aspects and beings that others might not see. This deeper exploration into these worlds will be covered in more detail later in this book. Currently, many people haven't developed these higher senses yet. This doesn't mean they aren't valuable. It just means that human evolution is ongoing and must continue to progress. In philosophical literature, the soul world is often called the astral world, while the spirit world is referred to as the mental world. People often wrongly imagine that the higher organs of perception are like physical ones but more refined. They expect these higher worlds to be like a vaporous or rarefied version of the physical world, which makes it hard for them to grasp what these worlds truly are. If people let go of the idea that higher worlds are just a finer version of physical matter, it would be easier for them to understand these realms. Just as knowing only a person's physical appearance doesn't fully reveal who they are, understanding the physical world alone doesn't show us its soul and spiritual aspects. To truly grasp the world, we need to understand its deeper spiritual layers. This is why it's important to explore the soul and spirit worlds first, then view the physical world through that understanding. Talking about these higher worlds is challenging, because our current age focuses heavily on physical knowledge. Our language and concepts are shaped by physical experiences, leading to misunderstandings. To bridge this gap, we often use similes and comparisons to hint at these higher realities. This approach helps guide people toward understanding these realms and prepares them for a more direct experience of them later on. Just as our physical body is made up of materials and forces from the physical world, like the stomach, heart, and brain, our soul qualities such as impulses, desires, feelings, and sensations come from the soul world. The soul world is as integral to us as our physical body is. The soul world is different from the physical world. It's often described as finer, more mobile, and more flexible. However, this comparison should be understood as pointing out a fundamental difference rather than a direct similarity. The soul world isn't just a refined version of the physical world, it's an entirely different realm. In the soul world, entities and materials are shaped by soul forces, much like how physical materials are shaped by physical forces in our world. While the physical world is characterized by space and movement, the soul world is defined by excitability and desires. Terms like desires, wishes, or longing are used to describe this realm because they reflect its essence. In spirituality, the matter of the soul world is called astral, and the forces are referred to as kama. However, in the soul world, the distinction between matter and force isn't as clear-cut as in the physical world. For example, an impulse or wish can be seen as both force and matter in this context. When someone first encounters the soul world, it can be as confusing as a newly blind person learning to see. Just like a person who's had their sight restored might initially struggle to understand spatial distance and perspective, newcomers to the soul world might find its differences from the physical world bewildering. In the soul world, things work under different rules than in the physical world. For instance, just as a person born blind might initially perceive objects as flat or painted on a surface, someone entering the soul world might not immediately grasp how things interact. The soul world is influenced by both the physical body and the spirit. Observations in the soul world must consider these influences. For example, when someone sends out a wish, it's guided by their thoughts, which follow spiritual laws rather than physical ones. One key difference between the soul world and the physical world is how interactions occur. In the physical world, objects impact each other based on physical laws. For example, when one ball hits another, the second ball moves in a predictable way. But in the soul world, interactions depend more on the inner qualities of things. If two entities are in harmony, they blend together. If they are in conflict, they repel each other. Another difference is how distances are perceived. In the physical world, distant objects appear smaller and closer together due to perspective. In the soul world, objects' distances are based on their inner nature, which can lead to misunderstandings for those used to physical world rules. To navigate the soul world, it's important to understand how different forms within it are distinguished. Just as in the physical world, we recognize solids, liquids, gases, and air. In the soul world, forms are categorized based on two primary forces: sympathy and antipathy. Sympathy is the force that draws soul formations together, encouraging them to merge and connect. Antipathy, on the other hand, is the force that repels or pushes away, keeping entities separate and distinct. Each soul formation is influenced by these forces in varying degrees, which determines its nature and interactions. There are three main types of soul formations, each characterized by how sympathy and antipathy interact within them. Let's start with the first type: formations with predominant antipathy. These formations primarily repel or exclude other forms around them, though they do possess some sympathy. From the outside, they seem to be driven only by antipathy, but in reality, both forces are present. This type of formation is somewhat self-centered. It tends to repel much of its surroundings while attracting very little. Its sympathy appears almost greedy, as it can't fully satisfy its desire due to the strong repelling force of antipathy. You can think of these formations as comparable to solid physical objects in the material world. In the soul world, they might be described as having a burning desire. This type of desire, found in both animals and humans, shapes their basic instincts and urges. 2. Balanced soul formations. In the second type of soul formation, sympathy and antipathy are in balance. These formations interact with their surroundings without strongly attracting or repelling anything. They are like liquids in the physical world, not creating solid barriers between themselves and their environment. These formations absorb and respond to their surroundings neutrally. For example, when you see the color red, you first get a neutral response from it. Only when you add personal pleasure or interest does it become more active. This type of soul formation can be described as having flowing excitability, as it adapts and connects with many things around it. 3. Wish substance formations. The third type has more sympathy than antipathy. These formations act as if they are centers of attraction, drawing things toward themselves. This makes them seem like they are full of wish substance. Just as gases spread out and fill available space, these soul formations attract and expand their influence outward. They have a strong sense of attraction and desire, which is somewhat selfish. In the highest stages of soul formation, antipathy is completely absent, and only sympathy is active. This creates a powerful sense of liking, where different parts of the soul formation attract and connect with each other. Disliking is simply a reduced form of liking, similar to how cold is less warmth. This creates a world of emotions where feeling and comfort depend on the balance between attraction and repulsion within the soul. Understanding these different soul formations helps in navigating and interpreting the soul world, much like how we understand different states of matter in the physical world. The highest grade of soul formations is distinguished by a pure, unrestricted sympathy. Unlike lower grades, these formations don't have to overcome any antipathy. Instead, they allow for a deep connection and unity among various soul formations, much like light in the physical world. This higher sympathy allows soul beings to absorb and reflect the essence of others, bringing them to true soul life. Instead of a sluggish, isolated existence, these soul beings radiate and share their energy outwardly. The 7 regions of the soul world. To understand the soul world, we can divide it into 7 regions. Burning desire. This is where selfish, intense desires dominate. Flowing excitability. Here, the soul formations interact neutrally, like liquids absorbing and responding to their surroundings. Wishes. This region is characterized by a strong sense of attraction and desire, similar to how gases expand and fill space. Attraction and repulsion. This region links the lower and higher soul formations, where sympathy and antipathy balance and interact. Soul light. This higher region represents the illumination and radiance of pure sympathy. Active soul force. Here, soul formations are energized and vibrant, actively influencing each other. Soul life. This is the highest state, where soul formations achieve their fullest, most dynamic expression of life. Each region has unique characteristics and roles, shaping how soul formations interact and develop. The lower regions are more about balancing desires and reactions, while the higher regions focus on illumination, vitality, and unity. The 7 regions of the soul world, burning desire, flowing excitability, wishes, attraction and repulsion, soul light, active soul force, and soul life, are not isolated from each other. Just as in the physical world, where solids, liquids, and gases overlap and interact, These soul regions blend and influence one another. For instance, desire and aversion mix with soul light, while active soul force and soul life interact similarly. They permeate and affect one another, creating a rich, interconnected soul environment. The soul connects the spirit and the body. Its forces of sympathy and antipathy shape our desires, excitability, and other feelings, impacting not only our inner world, but also our interactions with the physical and spiritual realms. While the soul is in the body, it shares in the body's experiences. When the body functions well, the soul feels pleasure. When it's disturbed, the soul feels discomfort. The soul also interacts with the spirit. For instance, pleasant sounds from the physical world make the soul happy, and the spirit understands this pleasure. Conversely, thoughts from the spirit become wishes through the soul, leading to actions carried out by the body. The soul's development is reflected in how it aligns with the spirit or the body. A well-developed soul resonates more with spiritual growth, while an undeveloped soul focuses on physical pleasures and experiences. The goal of the spirit is to grow beyond physical limitations, guided by eternal truth and goodness, with the soul acting as the bridge between the spiritual and the physical. In the physical world, death marks a change in the body's functions. The body stops being an instrument for the soul and spirit and begins to break down according to physical laws. After death, we can only observe the body's physical changes, not what happens to the soul and spirit. These are beyond the reach of our physical senses and science, which can only study physical phenomena. When the spirit leaves the body, it remains connected to the soul. During physical life, the body ties the soul and spirit to the physical world. After death, the soul continues to link the spirit to the soul world, which helps bridge the spirit's transition to its next incarnation. The spirit needs energy from the spiritual world to prepare for a new, more perfect form. Even though the soul is no longer connected to the body after death, it is still linked to the spirit. The soul now lives within the soul world and is influenced only by forces from this realm. The spirit, while bound to the soul world, is preparing to move into the higher spiritual world. Just as the body's death is determined by physical laws, the soul's release is guided by the soul's own nature. The soul and spirit part ways when the soul has processed all it can from the physical world. The spirit is then freed to enter the spiritual realm, carrying forward the essence of its earthly experiences. This essence, refined by the soul, remains connected to the spirit in the higher spiritual world. To understand the soul's fate after death, we need to look at how it dissolves. During life, the soul guides the spirit toward the physical world. Once this task is complete, the soul should turn toward the spiritual realm. Ideally, after the body dies, the soul would focus only on spiritual activities, without any lingering ties to the physical world. However, the soul's time in the body leaves it with certain attachments and desires linked to the physical world. If a person dies with unresolved earthly desires, the soul may still yearn for those things. This can cause the soul to remain connected to the physical realm longer. It's important to differentiate between two types of attachments: karma, destiny. These are debts or responsibilities from past actions that need to be worked out in future lives. Current life attachments. These are specific desires or issues tied to the life just ended, which can linger after death. After death, the soul goes through a period of shedding its earthly attachments. How long this process takes depends on how deeply the soul was tied to physical desires. For someone who was less attached, this transition is quicker. For someone who is deeply invested in physical life, the process can be much longer as the soul gradually lets go of its lingering wishes and adjusts to the spiritual world. To understand the soul's condition immediately after death, Imagine someone who finds pleasure in food. While this enjoyment feels real, it's actually a function of the soul, not the body. The pleasure comes from the soul, but it needs the body's senses, like the taste buds, to experience it. After death, the soul still has the desire for these pleasures, but lacks the physical organs to enjoy them. This creates a strong feeling of deprivation, like having intense thirst with no water in sight. This feeling of deprivation or burning thirst lasts until the soul stops longing for physical experiences. This period is known in spirituality as kamaloka, a state where the soul faces its unfulfilled desires. In the soul world, the soul is governed by new laws. It continues to crave physical pleasures it can no longer have, and this craving becomes intense. However, this intense longing starts to fade as the soul realizes that these desires can never be satisfied here. Over time, the soul learns that the only way to stop the suffering from these cravings is to let them go. During physical life, temporary satisfaction hides the pain of these desires. But after death, this pain becomes clear and unmasked. Souls that were focused on coarse, physical pleasures experience the most intense suffering in this state. Souls with fewer such desires might not notice this phase as much since they have less to purge. Generally, the more a soul was tied to physical desires in life, the longer and more intensely it will experience this purifying process. In the soul world, there are different states based on how sympathy and antipathy balance out. Here's a breakdown of these states and their effects. 1. The state of balance. Some souls experience a balance between sympathy and antipathy. If a person has lived a life focused on fleeting pleasures and superficial experiences, they may find themselves in this state after death. These individuals were easily swayed by trivial things, but their lack of deep attachment means these influences will quickly fade. Without the physical world to provide these fleeting pleasures, the soul suffers from a sense of emptiness. This suffering helps dissolve the illusions they lived by during their physical life. 2. The state of predominant sympathy. Another state involves a predominance of sympathy, where wishes and desires are strong. Souls that enter this state after death still cling to their unfulfilled wishes. Since these wishes can't be satisfied in the soul world, they gradually diminish, leading to a process of letting go. 3. The state of attraction and repulsion. This state deals with the soul's past experiences of attraction and repulsion. While alive, a person's sense of self was closely tied to their body. After death, the soul loses this bodily connection and may feel empty or lost. This feeling of emptiness persists until the soul understands that its true essence isn't tied to the physical body. Through this realization, the soul moves beyond its attachment to physical existence and begins to fully engage with the broader soul world with a purified sense of sympathy. 4. The pain of suicide. These souls experience particularly intense suffering after death. They leave their physical body in a way that's not natural, so their feelings of attachment and unfulfilled desires remain unchanged. Unlike those who die naturally and gradually lose attachment to their bodies, these souls face a sudden and painful realization of emptiness, compounded by their unresolved wishes. 5. The fifth stage, soul light. The fifth stage is where the soul encounters what is known as soul light. At this stage, sympathy for others has grown significantly. Souls in this state have not been solely focused on physical pleasures, but have found joy and beauty in their surroundings. For example, those who love nature sensually will find this love purified here. However, there's a crucial distinction between enjoying nature for its physical beauty and seeking a deeper, spiritual connection with it. Souls who have focused on physical comforts or sensuous pleasures must undergo purification in this stage. They learn that true sympathy extends beyond physical satisfaction and connects with the broader soul world. Souls that viewed religious practices mainly as a way to gain earthly or heavenly rewards also undergo a similar purification. They discover that what they sought in paradise was not as fulfilling as they imagined. The fifth stage helps souls realize that genuine satisfaction and connection come from within the soul world, beyond mere physical or sensory experiences. 6. The sixth region, active soul force. In the sixth region, souls focused on action find purification. These souls often appear idealistic and self-sacrificing, but are driven by personal pleasure. Many artists and scientists fall into this category. They enjoy their work for the satisfaction it provides, but have yet to realize that art and science can serve the greater good of the world. Here, they learn to shift from seeking personal pleasure to understanding how their actions contribute to the world's evolution. 7. The seventh region, true soul life. The seventh region helps souls let go of their last ties to the physical world. Souls that still believe their work should be focused on material concerns must confront and overcome this belief. In this region, materialistic views melt away like ice under the sun. The soul, now free from earthly constraints, merges fully with its spiritual surroundings. The spirit rises to its true home, having completed its earthly tasks and leaving behind any remaining earthly influences. This section introduces the world of the spirit, often called the mental world in philosophy. It's crucial to understand that this realm is vastly different from our physical world, and descriptions might seem fantastical to those who rely only on their physical senses. Just like with the soul world, we have to use analogies to explain it since our language is geared toward physical realities. In this spirit world, everything is more abstract and less tangible than what we're used to. The descriptions provided are meant to give a general sense of what this world is like, but they can't fully capture the true nature of these higher realms. For a more detailed exploration of these concepts, check out the book Outline of Occult Science by Altmans Verlag. In the spirit land, everything is made from the essence of human thought. However, the thoughts we have are just shadowy reflections of their true, more vivid forms. Think of it like this. Just as a shadow on the wall represents an object, our thoughts are mere shadows of their real, spiritual counterpart. When someone's spiritual sense awakens, they perceive these true thought beings just as clearly as we see physical objects, like tables or chairs. For example, the physical eye sees a lion, while our thinking mind only imagines the idea of a lion. But in the spirit land, the spiritual eye sees the thought lion as vividly as the physical eye sees the lion itself. It's like how a person who's never seen colors before suddenly experiences a world full of them after an eye operation. Similarly, someone who develops spiritual vision sees a world full of living thoughts and spiritual beings. In the spirit land, you encounter the spiritual archetypes of everything in the physical and soul worlds. Imagine a painter's idea of a painting before it's created. That idea is like an archetype. These archetypes are the true forms from which physical things and beings are copied. While some people might think these archetypes are just abstract ideas, those with spiritual vision see them as vividly real, much more intense than physical objects. When you first enter the spirit land, it can be even more overwhelming than the soul world. The archetypes here are dynamic and ever-changing, unlike their physical copies. They are constantly in motion, creating and shaping new forms. Archetypes don't work alone. They collaborate with one another to bring new beings into existence in both the soul and physical worlds. In the spirit land, there's not just spiritual sight, but also spiritual hearing. When someone moves from the soul world into the spirit world, they start to perceive not only visual forms, but also sounds. Imagine being in a vast ocean of music. In this music, the beings of the spirit world communicate through tones and harmonies. These sounds reflect their inner laws and relationships, much like how physical laws are understood in the material world. The Pythagoreans referred to these perceptions as the music of the spheres, which wasn't just a metaphor, but a real experience for those with spiritual hearing. This spiritual music is different from what we hear with our physical ears. It's more like a harmony of colors and tones, where every color and light has a corresponding sound. So when describing the spirit land, think of everything as both shining with light and resonating with sound. The spirit land has different regions, much like layers, but they blend into each other rather than stacking like strata. The first region contains the archetypes of the physical world, but only the non-living aspects. Here, you'd find the archetypes of minerals and plants, but only their physical forms, not their living qualities. This region serves as the basic structure of the spirit land, similar to how the solid land forms the continents of our physical earth. To imagine this, picture a space filled with various physical bodies. Now, remove these bodies and think of the empty spaces as filled with forms and patterns. These patterns represent the archetypes in this region. They are like the blueprints for physical forms. When physical bodies are formed, these spaces get filled with physical matter, while the archetypes continue their creative work around them. So, someone with spiritual vision would see both the physical bodies and the dynamic activity of these creative archetypes in the same space. The second region of the spirit land is where we find the archetypes of life. Imagine this as a vast, flowing sea of life energy, like blood circulating through a body. This life force spreads throughout the spirit land, similar to how blood nourishes every part of an animal. It shows how all life is interconnected, reminding us that the life in each of us is linked to all other living beings. The third region is like the atmosphere of the spirit land. It's finer and more subtle than the previous regions. Here, you find the archetypes related to all feelings and experiences from the other worlds. Imagine the emotions of the physical and soul worlds as weather patterns in this region. Longing might feel like a soft breeze, while intense passion could be a storm. If you focus, you can sense these emotional weather patterns, like a storm reflecting the turmoil of a battle on Earth. The fourth region is different from the others. It's home to beings that oversee and organize the archetypes from the lower regions. They make sure that the different archetypes work together harmoniously. This region handles the bigger picture, managing how the various elements from the lower regions interact and cooperate. The fifth, sixth, and seventh regions of the spirit land are quite different from the lower ones. In these regions, you encounter the forces that drive the archetype's activity. These are the creative impulses that shape the archetypes, giving them purpose and direction. In the fifth region, you find the germ thought beings, which are like the seeds of ideas and forms. These are not yet fully shaped, but are ready to become various forms of thought. They exist as potential, waiting to manifest in the lower regions of the spirit land. In the sixth region, these germ thought beings start to express themselves not just as sounds, but in a spiritual language. Instead of only hearing their music, you begin to understand their true nature through words or spiritual expressions. This is where you grasp their eternal names, or the deeper meanings behind them. The seventh region is where you encounter the core or life kernel of these beings. This kernel is a vital, living essence that originates from even higher realms. It's like the heart or core of a being with its roots in higher worlds. This kernel is essential for the tasks that these beings will perform in the three described regions. After death, the human spirit travels through the world of souls, Kamaloka, and enters the land of spirits, Devashan, until it's ready for a new physical body. This phase is crucial for understanding the spirit's journey. During physical life, the spirit works through the body, influencing the physical world. It's like using physical matter to express and act on spiritual ideas. However, while embodied, the spirit can only shine through the veil of physical existence. Its true nature remains hidden. Even though the spirit's task is to act in the physical world, it needs time between incarnations to prepare. Just as an architect designs a house and an office before construction begins, the spirit develops its goals and abilities in the land of spirits. This preparation ensures that when the spirit returns to the physical world, it can better shape and guide its work. In life, people learn about the physical world by interacting with it. This hands-on experience helps them understand how to work with physical matter, as well as the challenges and opportunities it presents. The physical world becomes both a place for action and a classroom for learning. Think of it like an architect designing a house. As he works on different projects, he gains valuable experience. Each new design benefits from what he learned before. Similarly, in each life, people gather experiences that help them grow and improve. When they move on to their next life, they bring these lessons with them. Between lives, the spirit lives in its own realm, free from the physical body. Here, it focuses on developing and refining its abilities, using the experiences gained from past lives. This spiritual growth helps the spirit better prepare for future incarnations. This process of learning and growing is a general pattern. While individual experiences may vary over many lives, these lessons and growth opportunities balance out, helping the spirit improve and contribute more effectively in each new life. In the spirit land, the spirit fully immerses itself in the different regions, adopting their characteristics to enhance its growth. Each region offers unique experiences that strengthen the spirit's abilities for its next earthly life. In the first region of the spirit land, the spirit encounters the spiritual archetypes of physical things. On earth, people only grasp the shadows or ideas of these archetypes. Here, they experience them as real, living entities. It's like moving through a workshop where the raw thoughts and ideas that shape physical objects are actively at work. What was once a mere thought on earth now becomes a vibrant reality in the spirit land. The spirit sees and feels these thoughts as real beings, creating and constructing the physical world. Even the spirit's own body is seen as part of this vast network of thought, rather than as a separate entity. In this realm, the spirit learns to see itself as part of the larger world. It realizes that its own body and everything around it are interconnected. This realization fosters a sense of unity with the external world, echoing the ancient wisdom that everything is interconnected. The spirit begins to understand what is around you is part of you, which is a core concept in ancient Indian philosophy. A wise person, even while on earth, tries to understand the deep connection they have with everything, thinking, "I am connected to all." While this idea might be a distant goal for many during their earthly life, it becomes a clear reality in the spirit land. There, one feels a profound unity with the entire spirit world, recognizing oneself as a part of the primordial spirit. This experience echoes the ancient wisdom of Vedanta, which teaches that I am Brahman, meaning we are all part of the ultimate reality. In spirit land, a person gains a new perspective on their earthly life. From this higher viewpoint, they see their earthly relationships, such as family, friends, and cultural background, as living thoughts. They experience these connections in a vivid, active way, enhancing their understanding and capacity for love and relationships. When in the spirit land's lower regions, a person revisits their earthly experiences, not just as memories, but as living, dynamic realities. They relive family bonds and friendships from a deeper, spiritual perspective, which strengthens these aspects within them. This preparation ensures that when they return to Earth, they do so with greater insight and improved abilities in their personal connections and interactions. In Spirit Land, the everyday relationships from our earthly life mature and transform. Those who are deeply engaged in these everyday aspects will feel a strong connection to this region during their spiritual time between incarnations. It's a place where the everyday experiences and connections we form take on a deeper, more spiritual significance. In the next region of Spirit Land, the common life we experience on Earth becomes a flowing, unifying force. While on Earth, life seems divided into separate beings, in Spirit Land, this life flows as a unified force, like the lifeblood of the entire realm. This unity is only a reflection for us while we are on Earth, expressed through our reverence and religious practices. In Spirit Land, this unity is fully realized. Here, the sense of connection we have with the universe becomes tangible, and we can truly join with this greater whole. For those who have deeply engaged with religious and moral ideals during their earthly life, this region provides a profound sense of belonging and strengthens their capacity to see themselves as part of a greater unity. When they return to Earth, they bring back this enhanced sense of connection and purpose. The third region of Spirit Land is where the archetypes of the soul world exist. Here, everything is a living thought being, including desires, wishes, and feelings. Unlike our individual experiences on Earth, in this region, everyone's desires and feelings blend into a shared, collective experience. It's like the atmosphere surrounding our planet, but for the soul. The more someone has served others selflessly on Earth, the more they connect with this region, as their actions reflect the unity and selflessness found here. Great benefactors and philanthropists who have deeply impacted their communities find their abilities and connections to this region enhanced by their past earthly deeds. The fourth region of Spirit Land is different from the three below it. While the earlier regions relate to physical and soul world archetypes, the fourth region is where the archetypes of purely human creations reside. This includes everything from scientific discoveries and artistic ideas to engineering and government systems. What people create during their earthly lives, like art, inventions, and innovations, finds its archetype here. Artists, scientists, and inventors gain inspiration and refine their genius in this region, preparing to contribute even more to human progress in future lifetimes. While this fourth region is highly significant, it's not the pure Spirit Land in the fullest sense, as it's still linked to human creations and inventions. In the fifth region of Spirit Land, the human spirit is freed from earthly limitations and fully experiences its true intentions and aims. On Earth, everything, crystals, trees, animals, and human creations, are mere reflections of these higher spiritual goals. During our earthly lives, we can only work with these imperfect reflections. The fifth region is where the true self, or causal body, exists in its pure form. Here, the self reflects the full intentions and aims that were only partly realized in physical life. In this region, the self reviews its past lives and discards the imperfections, focusing on refining and realizing the true spiritual purposes. Just as an architect learns from past mistakes to improve future designs, the self in the fifth region integrates past experiences to better align with spiritual goals. Those who have actively pursued spiritual purposes or wise love in their earthly lives will find a stronger connection to this region. Conversely, those who focused only on everyday concerns will have fewer results to bring into this higher spiritual plane. If a spirit has progressed enough through many visits to Spirit Land, it becomes comfortable and familiar with the spiritual world, just as we are with our physical world. This spirit feels a deep connection to the divine world order, unaffected by earthly limitations or laws. They can see how the past was shaped by the eternal and can predict the future's direction. They approach their next earthly life with clear spiritual goals, aligning their future actions with divine wisdom. Their words and deeds reflect this higher understanding, contributing meaningfully to the divine world order. To reach the sixth region and receive a divine mission for a future life, a spirit must have risen above the trivial concerns of earthly existence. In this state, they are guided not by personal likes or dislikes, but by what is necessary according to spiritual wisdom. Their actions are driven by what is best for the universe's true progress. By being detached from fleeting desires and observing the world with calm, a spirit in this region can fully engage with its divine mission. The seventh region of Spirit Land is where one reaches the boundaries of the three worlds we've discussed. Here, a person encounters the life kernels, the core elements that are transferred from higher realms to the three worlds to fulfill their purposes. Being at this boundary means understanding the essence of existence and having solved the great why of life. People who reach this stage can see the full picture of life and understand the deep purpose behind it. They are connected to the great guides of humanity, who draw their wisdom from this region. The soul world and spirit land can't be seen directly with our senses. Instead, we live in three worlds simultaneously: the physical world, the soul world, and the spirit world. In our physical lives, we perceive and interact with the physical world. The soul world affects us through our feelings and desires, while our spiritual nature connects with the spirit land through our thoughts. Think of the physical world like a piece of ice floating in water. The ice is made of the same material as the water, but has different qualities that make it visible. Similarly, physical objects are like condensed forms of spiritual and soul elements. Just as ice can melt back into water, the spiritual and soul aspects can manifest in the physical world. When we think about something, like a stone, we're connecting with the spiritual essence behind it. This is why our thoughts can align with nature's structure. The astronomer Kepler noted that our ability to understand the cosmos through astronomy reflects a harmony between our thoughts and the universe. In essence, physical objects are like frozen forms of spiritual beings. By thinking about them, we're reaching beyond their physical appearance to understand their spiritual essence, much like a chemist who melts a solid to study its liquid form. In Spirit Land, the spiritual archetypes of the physical world are found in different regions. In the 5th, 6th, and 7th regions, these archetypes exist as living germ points. In the 4 lower regions, they take shape as spiritual formations. When we think about physical objects, we perceive only a shadowy reflection of these spiritual formations. To understand how these spiritual forms condense into the physical world, we need to explore these formations more deeply. The physical world is divided into 4 main stages: the mineral, the plant, the animal, and the human. Each stage has its own characteristics and ways of interacting with the world. Minerals can be seen and understood through both our senses and thoughts. When we think about minerals, we deal with both the physical object and our thoughts about it. This leads us to see minerals as condensed thought beings. Minerals affect each other externally, by moving, warming, or dissolving. Our thoughts about these interactions form a picture of the mineral world, reflecting its spiritual archetype. Plants add another layer to the mineral world with their ability to grow and reproduce. Plants can shape themselves and produce similar beings. Between the shapeless minerals and the living shapes of plants, we find crystals. Crystals represent the transition from formless minerals to the living forms of plants. The process of crystallization in the physical world mirrors a spiritual process where the spiritual germs form into distinct shapes. In plants, the spiritual germs have shape and also retain the ability to shape or create. Unlike crystals, which have lost their shaping power and merely exist as shapes, plants not only have form but also continue to shape and grow. This shaping force, though invisible, is crucial in plant development. For instance, while you can see a plant growing from a small to a larger size, the force responsible for this growth is not visible to the naked eye. This formative force is part of the plant kingdom's hidden spiritual side. In philosophy, these forces are called elementary kingdoms. The first elementary kingdom consists of primal forms with no shape, while the second elementary kingdom includes the invisible forces that shape and grow plants. In animals, sensations and impulses are added to the abilities seen in plants. Animals experience feelings and reactions that come from their soul world. Unlike plants, which keep growing new parts, animals have a complete form and develop sensations and impulses within that form. These sensations and impulses are rooted in the soul world, making them more dynamic and less enduring than the physical shape. In philosophy, the realm where these forces operate is called the third elementary kingdom. Here, formless beings, who are the true architects behind sensations and impulses, work in the soul world. These beings shape the animal's experiences and responses, similar to how invisible forces shape plant growth. Humans have unique abilities that go beyond those of plants and animals. While plants show shape and animals exhibit sensations and impulses, humans can turn their sensations into ideas and control their impulses with thoughts. This means humans not only experience sensations, but also think about them, shaping them into ideas. In animals, the spirit manifests as soul force, but in humans, the spirit manifests as thought through the physical brain. The threefold world archetypal beings. These are formless spiritual entities in the first elementary kingdom. Shape-creating beings. These beings shape matter and are part of the second elementary kingdom. Soul beings. These beings influence feelings and impulses, found in the third elementary kingdom. Created shapes. The physical forms of crystals that reflect spiritual processes. Plant kingdom. Plants display shapes and also embody shape-creating forces, though these forces aren't visible. Animal kingdom. Animals have shapes and experience soul-driven sensations, blending shape and soul influences. Human kingdom. Humans combine shape, soul, and spirit. They manifest spirit in the form of thought within the material world. Humans are unique because their spirit is present in their physical body, making it visible as thought rather than just a shape or sensation. The different aspects of a human being, physical body, ether body, sentient soul, and intellectual soul, are condensed forms of spiritual archetypes. Physical body. A condensed form of the human archetype, visible to the senses. Ether body. Manages mobility and activity, extending into the sensory realm but not visible itself. This explains how humans integrate spiritual elements into their physical existence, showing how deeply connected the spiritual and physical realms are. To fully understand how spiritual beings work, you need to know their origins and roles. Highest regions of Spirit Land. Spiritual beings start in the highest realms of Spirit Land. They shape themselves into archetypes of life, which influence the physical world. Sentient soul body. Similarly, the sentient soul body originates in these highest regions, shaping itself into an archetype of the soul world, and then influences the physical world. Intellectual soul. The intellectual soul comes from the fourth region of Spirit Land. It shapes itself into thoughts, which then directly affect human thinking and actions in the physical world. Humans are influenced by these spiritual beings in several ways. Physical body. The beings affecting this are similar to those shaping minerals. Ether body. influenced by beings akin to those in the plant kingdom. Sentient soul body, affected by beings from the animal kingdom, though they are not visible. All these influences combine to form the universe we experience. Understanding this helps us grasp the existence of other types of spiritual beings. One example is the national spirit, or folk spirit. Unlike beings in nature's kingdoms, the national spirit does not appear physically. Instead, it exists in the collective sensations, feelings, and tendencies of an entire nation. It forms a soul body that affects the people within a nation but doesn't originate from individual souls. For those who can only rely on physical senses, spirit and spiritual beings might seem like mere fantasies or superstitions. However, this is because these beings are not visible to the physical eye. They don't have physical bodies, so they can't be seen or measured in the same way as tangible objects. Spiritual beings like salamanders, sylphs, undines, and gnomes exist in a realm beyond the physical. They play roles in shaping the world, but are not perceptible through ordinary sight. Instead, they are visible only to those with spiritual insight. This insight allows one to see beyond the physical world and into a realm where these beings interact and contribute to the world's creation. The concept of the spirit of the age, or zeitgeist, refers to the collective spirit or mood of a particular time period. This, too, is an example of something that isn't always visible or tangible, but can be understood through spiritual awareness. When people develop their spiritual senses, akin to spiritual eyes and ears, they begin to understand things that are invisible to the physical senses. They start to see the deeper underlying causes of the effects seen in the physical world. This expanded perception allows them to grasp the true nature of things, rather than just their surface appearance. For those who develop this spiritual vision, the world becomes clearer, and they can make sense of what was previously mysterious or incomprehensible. This understanding can provide a stronger sense of direction and purpose, as it reveals aspects of existence that are hidden from ordinary sight. Our senses determine what we perceive as real. Just as we need eyes to see light, we need specific inner senses to perceive things like feelings and thoughts. The soul world and spirit world are just as real as the physical world, but they require different senses to be understood. Feelings and ideas exist in a higher reality that physical eyes can't see. They become perceptible through inner senses, which are developed through spiritual practice. For someone who has trained these inner senses, emotions and thoughts can be seen as tangible phenomena, much like seeing colors in the physical world. In the spiritual world, thoughts and feelings appear as visible phenomena. For instance, a person's thought can be seen as a stream of light or color, reflecting the nature of the thought. Thoughts born from emotions or knowledge display different colors and qualities. To those with developed spiritual senses, a person's thoughts and feelings are vibrant and perceptible. The physical form of a person is just one part of a larger, rich tapestry of spiritual and emotional energy. Understanding this deeper reality requires expanding one's inner perception beyond the physical senses. Understanding auras, a guide to different types. To understand auras, you can compare different types of people based on their passions. Those driven mainly by animal instincts often show brown and brown-red hues in their aura. In contrast, people with subtler passions, influenced more by thought, display brighter reds and greens. As intelligence increases, the green tones in the aura become more prominent. Highly intelligent individuals who indulge in animal impulses will have green hues mixed with brown or reddish tones. Less intelligent people often have brownish red or dark red auras. For those who are quiet and thoughtful, the aura shifts from brownish and reddish tones to various shades of green. These individuals often have a soothing green undertone in their aura, reflecting their adaptability and thoughtful nature. Devotional and compassionate people show prominent blue tones in their aura. The more someone dedicates themselves to a cause or helps others, the stronger the blue in their aura. There are two types of people in this category. Passive souls. Those with a gentle nature and moderate thinking ability have beautiful blue auras. Active souls. Intelligent and compassionate people have a mix of green and blue in their auras. Their blue tones can even take on a greenish hue, showing a vibrant inner activity. Active, inventive people who are deeply engaged in spiritual or creative work have bright, clear colors radiating from within. In contrast, those driven by animalistic impulses have irregular, cloudy colors in their aura. In summary, the colors and patterns in a person's aura reflect their inner life and temperament, revealing their passions, thoughtfulness, and spiritual activity. The colors in a person's aura can reveal whether their thoughts are driven by personal desires or by selfless ideals. If someone uses their creativity mainly to satisfy their own passions, their aura will show dark blue-red hues. Conversely, if their thoughts are dedicated to serving a higher purpose or an ideal beyond themselves, their aura will have light reddish-blue tones. A life filled with spiritual devotion and sacrifice often displays shades of rose pink or light violet. Not just the core traits, but also temporary emotions and moods affect the aura. Anger creates red streams in the aura. Wounded pride appears as dark green clouds. Terror shows up as undulating blue stripes with a reddish tint. Anxiety is visible as continuous red-blue stripes radiating from the center of the aura. The way someone reacts to external stimuli can also be seen in their aura. Highly sensitive people show a continuous flickering of small reddish spots. Less intense people have flecks of orange-yellow or bright yellow in their aura. Absent-minded people display bluish, shifting flecks. Understanding these color changes can give insight into a person's emotional and mental state, revealing much more than what meets the eye. A highly developed spiritual seer can recognize three main types of color phenomena in the aura, each with distinct characteristics. Opaque colors. These colors are somewhat dull and misty, filling space with a fog-like quality. They make the area they occupy appear less clear and more muted compared to the vibrant colors visible to the physical eye. Light colors. These colors actually illuminate the space they fill, making the area appear bright and glowing. They transform the space into a shining or lighted area. Sparkling colors. These colors have a dynamic, glittering quality. They don't just light up the space. They add a sense of movement and energy, continuously radiating with a sparkling, lively effect. These three types of colors don't stay separate. They blend and overlap in the aura, creating a complex, intertwined display. A seer can perceive them as layers within one another, much like hearing different notes in a piece of music. At first, a seer might only perceive one type of color, typically the opaque colors. As their abilities grow, they can learn to see the light and sparkling colors as well. Advanced seers can focus on each type of color individually to study them more deeply, similar to how one might close their eyes to better appreciate music. In essence, understanding these color phenomena provides insight into the intricate and lively nature of the aura, revealing more about the energy and presence of individuals. The human aura reflects our body, soul, and spirit, showing these aspects in three distinct layers. Body aura. This layer reflects the impact of the physical body on the soul. It shows the influence of physical needs and desires on a person's inner life. Soul aura. This layer represents the soul's life, showing its development beyond mere sensory experiences, though it may not yet be fully focused on spiritual or eternal matters. Spirit aura. This layer indicates the spirit's control over the transient aspects of human life, representing the highest spiritual development. It reflects the influence of the eternal spirit within the person. Describing the aura is challenging and should be seen as an encouragement for deeper thought rather than a precise science. A seer can use the aura to assess a person's level of development. For someone focused on immediate desires and impulses, the first aura is vivid and dominant, while the second and third auras are faint or barely visible. As a person grows spiritually, the first aura becomes less prominent, the second aura expands, and the third aura starts to shine more brightly. Highly developed individuals, or servants of the eternal, have a strong third aura that shows their deep connection to the spiritual world. Color variations in the aura. Each part of the aura contains various colors, which change with a person's development. In undeveloped individuals, the first aura displays dull and murky shades, from red to blue, reflecting sensual desires and physical impulses. For example, red shades indicate strong desires and pleasures. Green shows a tendency toward laziness, and brownish green or yellowish green suggests unrealistic goals or modern lifestyle influences. As individuals progress spiritually, these colors become more refined and brighter, reflecting a deeper alignment with higher ideals and a more profound connection to the eternal. The aura reflects various aspects of a person's inner life and spiritual development, and the colors within it can reveal a lot about them. First aura, body influence, low egoism. Colors range from dirty yellow to brown, showing a base level of selfishness. Self-sacrifice. Natural, selfless impulses, like motherly love, appear in light reddish to rose-red shades. Fear and timidity. These feelings show up as brown-blue or gray-blue colors. Second aura, soul life. Pride and conceit. Brown and orange hues indicate strong pride or ambition. Inquisitiveness. Red-yellow flecks signal curiosity. Intelligence. Bright yellow represents clear thinking, while green shows a good understanding of life. Children who learn easily often have more green in this aura. Memory and affection. Green-yellow suggests good memory, while rose-red indicates a warm, affectionate nature. Piety and idealism. Blue stands for piety, which deepens into violet with religious fervor. Indigo blue reflects a high level of idealism and earnestness in life. Third aura, spirit influence. Lofty thinking. Yellow shows expansive thinking and a deep understanding of the divine order. When thinking is purified, it shines with a golden brilliance. Love and sacrifice. Green represents love for all beings, and blue signifies a capacity for selfless sacrifice. If this selflessness becomes a strong, active service to the world, the blue turns light violet. Remnants of egoism. If there are still traces of pride, these appear as orange shades mixed with yellow. Unique beauty. The colors in this part of the aura have a beauty and exalted quality unmatched by anything in the ordinary world. Overall, the aura's colors offer a window into the different stages of a person's spiritual development and inner life. Chapter 4. The path of knowledge. Gaining knowledge from these teachings is something anyone can do for themselves. The descriptions in this book offer a glimpse into higher realms and are the first step toward personal insight. Since we are thinking beings, starting with thought is crucial. Even if you don't yet have personal visions of these higher truths, the thoughts provided can stimulate and awaken your own inner capacities. Dismissing these thought pictures as mere abstractions misses their real impact. They are powerful forces that can drive personal growth and understanding. For those wondering how to gain personal knowledge of these higher truths, the advice is to start by learning what others have shared. If you feel that you want to see things for yourself and not rely on others' experiences, understand that absorbing others' insights is actually the first step towards your own knowledge. It's not about blind faith, but about open-minded consideration. Sages share their experiences not to enforce belief, but to offer a path for spiritual growth. It's essential to emphasize that serious, disciplined thinking is crucial for developing higher knowledge. Some may underestimate this, focusing instead on sensations and feelings. However, genuine spiritual insight requires a solid foundation of rigorous thought. Often, people misunderstand thinking, mistaking it for mere abstract speculation. In reality, thoughtful, vibrant mental engagement is the groundwork for deeper spiritual understanding. It would be nice if we could gain the ability to see higher truths without the hard work of thinking. Many wish for this, but true spiritual insight requires inner strength and clarity, which only disciplined thinking can provide. Without this, you might experience fleeting, confusing glimpses of spiritual phenomena, which may be interesting, but don't lead to real understanding. Gaining true spiritual sight brings significant changes to a person. A healthy soul is essential for becoming a seer, and the best way to develop this healthiness is through rigorous thinking. Without this foundation, attempts to develop spiritually can be harmful to both body and soul. Thoughtful, disciplined thinking makes a person more capable and balanced, while avoiding this effort can lead to vague, potentially harmful, dreamlike states. Unfounded skepticism can block the beneficial effects of spiritual teachings. It's not about blind faith, but about seriously engaging with these ideas. Sages asks you to think deeply about the concepts presented, integrating them into your own understanding. The goal is for these thoughts to resonate with you and eventually lead to personal insight. By immersing yourself in these ideas with self-discipline, you'll find that they will eventually lead you to your own vision. To gain personal insight into higher truths, one must develop the ability to be open and unbiased toward what others and the world reveal. If you approach something with preconceived judgments, you limit how much you can truly understand it. To truly learn, you need to empty yourself of all judgments and criticisms. For example, when meeting someone, it's not about whether you're wiser than they are. Even a child can offer valuable insights. If you let your own judgments cloud your view, you miss out on what they might reveal. To truly receive new knowledge, you must be completely open and selfless, constantly clearing your mind of biases. To practice this, you might start by trying not to judge the people around you. Instead of labeling them as good or bad, smart or dumb, aim to understand them as they are. This selflessness and openness are key to receiving and understanding the deeper spiritual truths that are all around us. The best exercises for developing higher knowledge involve interacting with people you find challenging. Instead of letting aversions or judgments color your view, try to be completely open to their influence. When you're in a situation that triggers judgments, work to set them aside and let events and people affect you without bias. This means not only being open to what happens around you, but also allowing your thoughts to be shaped by external influences rather than your own preconceived notions. The more you practice this selfless openness, the closer you get to higher knowledge. Underestimating these exercises means you don't recognize their true value. Those who understand the process know that genuine openness and freedom from bias are crucial for developing spiritual insight. Just like heat turns into energy for a steam engine, your practiced openness transforms into the ability to perceive spiritual truths. In addition to being receptive, it's important to avoid overvaluing yourself. If you focus too much on how things make you feel, you miss out on understanding the world itself. For instance, if you let your personal feelings of sympathy or dislike influence your judgment, you're just reflecting your own emotions rather than seeing things clearly. To truly grasp higher knowledge, You must learn to put your personal biases aside and approach everything with an open and objective mind. Sometimes we want to impose our own desires and preferences on the world, only accepting what fits our personal likes and rejecting everything else. This approach limits our ability to truly understand and connect with the world around us. To grow in wisdom and insight, we need to learn to engage with people and things based on their own nature, rather than just how they fit with our personal tastes. Instead of letting our feelings of liking or disliking dictate our actions, we should try to hold back immediate judgments and reactions. This doesn't mean eliminating these feelings, but rather using them in a more refined way. By not letting our initial reactions control us, we can develop a deeper sensitivity and awareness. Even things that seem unattractive at first can reveal their true qualities if we approach them with an open mind. When we let our personal biases drive us, we miss out on understanding things as they truly are. Instead of letting ourselves be swayed by our preferences or dislikes, we should aim to appreciate things for their true worth. To truly grasp higher knowledge, we need to maintain equanimity, being calm and balanced, regardless of pleasure or pain. When we let our emotions take over, we lose our sense of self and our ability to see things clearly. By accepting pleasure and pain without getting lost in them, we can start to understand them more deeply and keep our focus on our path to knowledge. When you experience pleasure, it shouldn't just be about enjoying the feeling. Instead, use that pleasure to understand the quality or nature of what's giving you pleasure. The same goes for pain. Rather than being absorbed by the emotion itself, let it guide you to understand what's causing it. Pleasure and pain should be viewed as signals that help you learn more about the things around you. They're not just feelings to react to, they're tools that reveal the true nature of the things they come from. When you respond to pleasure or pain with curiosity rather than just reacting emotionally, you start to see the deeper meaning behind them. By learning to use pleasure and pain as tools for understanding, you transform them into instruments for gaining insight. Just as your eyes help you see, pleasure and pain can help you perceive the world's inner nature. Instead of letting them control your actions, let them show you how to approach and understand the world around you. To understand the spiritual world, you need to be in tune with its true nature without letting your own biases get in the way. You're a part of this spiritual realm and can only fully connect with it if you align your thoughts with its timeless truths. When your thinking is influenced solely by your physical experiences, it becomes chaotic and confusing. For example, if you're lost in a jumble of thoughts, they might not make much sense. But everyday life corrects these thoughts, as reality forces you to align your actions with the world around you. In contrast, the spiritual realm doesn't have this immediate corrective force. Here, you need to bring clarity and discipline to your thoughts from the start. If you don't, you'll struggle to navigate this higher world because it doesn't correct your thinking the way physical reality does. To truly connect with spiritual truths, you must guide your thoughts with precision and self-awareness. Only then can you align with the spiritual laws and find your way in these deeper realms. To truly understand the spiritual world, you need to train your thinking to be precise and disciplined. Your thoughts should follow strict, logical patterns, similar to how mathematical rules work. This means your thoughts must connect in a clear and orderly way without being influenced by personal feelings or distractions. Just like in mathematics, where you follow strict rules without letting personal choices interfere, you need to apply the same clarity and discipline to your thinking. You should push aside any thoughts that disrupt this clarity and focus only on what aligns with these strict logical laws. While studying mathematics can help train your mind, it's not the only way to develop disciplined thinking. The key is to ensure that your thoughts are consistent and orderly, allowing you to connect with deeper spiritual truths more effectively. To follow the spiritual path, you must align both your thoughts and actions with the highest ideals of beauty and truth, without letting personal feelings interfere. Actions should be guided by these eternal principles, not by personal desires or what feels good in the moment. In everyday life, people often let personal gain or satisfaction dictate their actions, which can lead to a path driven by self-interest rather than truth. Instead, the path seeker should focus solely on what is truly good, regardless of personal benefit or success. This means letting go of self-will and focusing on the greater good. By following these spiritual laws, you align yourself with the true nature of the world, rising above ordinary sensory experiences. Even if you make mistakes along the way, the effort to follow these ideals will help guide you to the right path. The key is the genuine intention to seek truth, which will direct you towards it, even if you're not perfect. The doubt, "But what if I'm wrong?" reflects a lack of trust in the power of truth itself. The real challenge is not to let personal desires dictate your goals, but to let the Spirit's guidance shape your path. The goal is for truth to deeply influence you, guiding your thoughts and actions according to its eternal laws. The path seeker must oversee not only their thinking, but also their will. By doing so, they become a messenger of truth and beauty, advancing through stages of spiritual development. Simply seeing the spiritual world is not enough. You must live and experience it. As you follow these laws, your soul's experiences will change. Pleasure and pain will no longer just affect you personally. They will become tools for understanding higher realities. Just as your physical eyes and ears passively receive information, your feelings of pleasure and pain will become your spiritual eyes and ears, revealing deeper truths. In this state of balance, pleasure won't make you overly joyful, and pain won't overwhelm you with grief. Instead, these experiences will calmly guide you, showing you the true nature of things. This doesn't mean you lose the ability to feel. Rather, pleasure and pain become transformed into instruments for spiritual insight, helping you gain knowledge and understanding. When we relate to the world only through our personal experiences, we only see the surface, the temporary part of things. To truly understand, we must connect with the eternal essence behind these things. Before diving into deeper spiritual practices, the seeker should focus on recognizing this eternal aspect in everything they encounter. For example, when observing a stone, a plant, an animal, or a person, instead of just seeing their temporary forms, try to sense the eternal quality they hold. This doesn't mean you'll lose appreciation for everyday details. In fact, you'll find that each leaf, insect, or detail reveals even more when you see it through the lens of the eternal. This perspective adds depth and meaning to your observations, rather than taking away from them. Your progress will depend on your own abilities and how well you can keep your focus on the eternal. As you practice, you'll notice a shift in how you value things, seeing them not just for their temporary nature, but as reflections of something permanent. This shift helps you appreciate the world differently, seeing the eternal in the everyday, and learning to love it for its deeper significance. It doesn't mean you'll ignore life's details, but you'll understand their true place and worth. You won't get lost in trivial things. Instead, you'll see everything in its proper light and value. By seeing the eternal in everything, the path seeker can start to act from a deeper, more genuine place within themselves, rather than being swayed by the constant changes of the external world. This inner alignment with the eternal being helps them act in harmony with the true world order. Although reaching this state is a distant goal, the seeker must strive towards it with a will for true freedom, which comes from acting out of one's inner essence rather than external influences. Those who don't act from this inner core face obstacles, as their actions clash with the natural order, and fail to lead to true freedom. As the path seeker progresses, they will experience a deeper understanding of the spiritual world. They will gain insights that confirm the truths they've learned and will receive what's known as initiation or consecration from higher spiritual beings. This marks the start of a new chapter where the seeker becomes consciously connected to the spiritual realm. The seeker will no longer just learn from external sources, but will directly engage with the divine wisdom and the shaping spirit behind all things. The personality now serves to reflect the eternal, and any doubts or misconceptions about the spirit vanish. A disciple of wisdom can interact directly with the spirit itself, leaving behind any false ideas or superstitions. True freedom, as attained through higher knowledge, means being free from doubts, superstitions, and personal illusions. This state doesn't mean the personality disappears into a universal spirit. Instead, the personality reaches its highest development, while remaining distinct. Think of it like different colored circles blending into one. Each circle retains its color, contributing to the whole without losing its unique identity. As people go through multiple lives, incarnations, patience is essential. Using the current life to grow spiritually prepares one for future stages of intuitive seeing, clairvoyance, and deeper self-awareness. These advancements might happen in this life, or in a future one.